Well, Game 4 is coming up quick, and everyone has their own opinion on how things should have went for the team that they are rooting for. Now, lucky for us, we have a couple of experts in the field who can tell us their opinion on adjustments, breakdowns, and predictions for the next game of the series. We are joined by basketball analyst Coach Charles Tiu and Coach Mark Molina from the same generation, I believe.
May fashion comments then.
I hope so.
All right, so let's start off first with how the Denver Nuggets actually got that Game 3. Very impressive, especially in that second half. Coach Mark, your thoughts on it, because they really tightened up defensively. That was a main issue for Denver in Game 2 and that fourth quarter storm as well.
Exactly. They had too many lapses in the fourth quarter of game number 2, which they cleaned up in game number 3. And part of it was changing some of their personnel. Because you saw, what's his name, Bruce Brown.
Right.
And the other Brown,
Christian
Brown,
yeah.
playing a lot of minutes in the fourth quarter. All of the points of Christian, he had, I think, 15 points. To me, that was bonus. But he was more active on defense as compared to what KCP and MPJ did. So they got their time in the fourth quarter. There were fewer defensive lapses for Denver with the two of them there. In fact, he was even switching onto Butler quite effectively in that fourth quarter. So a little tweak there by Mike Malone in putting in fresh legs in the fourth quarter, I think did the trick there for Denver, because they really lost game number 2 because of those lapses against the shooters of Miami.
Well, actually, Coach Charles, when you think about it, Denver lost the fourth quarter of games 1 and 2, diba? Because as you saw in the stat, Miami was plus 90 in the playoffs in terms of fourth quarter scoring. So they got called out by Coach Mike Malone before game number 2, and they responded. And the two big stars responded big with a historic number. With historic numbers, those two stars, Murray and Jokic.
Yeah, it was really interesting when you saw what the Heat tried to do to Murray. Actually, they were almost trapping him, showing him, and he still put up those numbers, which is ridiculous. And I just thought the timing of everything was just great. Coach Malone challenged them to be more aggressive in the first half. Murray had 20 points. And in the third quarter, when the Nuggets pulled away, it was really Jokic. It was his turn to score. And I think those two guys have been just clear. I mean, clearly they are the best players of Denver. So I would think that maybe the Heat would want the other guys to beat them. Michael Porter can't hit a shot right now. Obviously, he's a great shooter.
What's going on with MPJ?
Aaron Gordon doesn't want to take threes. I know he made 2 in Game 2, but in Game 3 he didn't take a shot. So, I'm thinking maybe the Heat would just dare all the other guys to beat them. I know Christian Braun did really good. I love the way he played. But look, before that, he had 0 points the entire Lakers series. He played 3 games. He's playing so hard, as Coach Mark is saying. But, I tried to let the other guys beat them. We know what KCP can do.
Yeah.
He can hit shots, but he also hasn't been playing that well. So
Especially on defense. He had some major fouls in game number 2 that gave Miami life in that fourth quarter because of those 3-point fouls that he has made. So, Coach Mark, Denver, they say the first 2 games did not play well and yet split 1-1. Game 3 winner, if the series is tied 1-1, 80% of the time they win the series. That was a pivotal game number 3. They know that Miami's going to come out in game number 4 because, desperation. What are you going to look out for if you're Denver?
Well, as Coach Charles mentioned, let the other people beat you, not Murray and Jokic.
Oh,
but what
right.
Mike Malone did in game number 3, he went a lot on the Jokic Murray pick and roll.
Correct.
So that it's because it's very hard to defend that. If you jump out on Murray, then Jokic will get his shots. That's why Murray had 10 assists in game number 3. 42 times Murray was on pick and roll situations in game 3 compared to just 30 the first 2 games.
Yeah.
So that was really a concerted effort on Mike Malone to have Murray running the offense with Jokic as the screener. So he really wanted to do that 2-man, so that the others are not that involved. Because you want to live and die with those 2 guys, and in game 3, that's exactly what happened. I mean, triple-double for those
For both of them.
Yeah, and an average of 32 screens in games 1 and 2, just to get the number right. And of course, 42, as you mentioned there, for Murray in game 3 in terms of ball screens with Nikola Jokic. You take a look at the fact that there were 2 triple-double games. That means a lot of rebounding went the way of the Denver Nuggets. Unfortunately for Miami, the effort wasn't really there. You take a look at the rebounding battle between the two, 58 for Denver, only 33 for Miami. It's practically the numbers combined of Murray and Jokic. Charles, you mentioned this as one of the key points here for Miami if they want to get back in the series.
You know, I like what one of the NBA analysts, I think it was Jeff Van Gundy, he was saying, you know, people are looking for all sorts of adjustments, but sometimes when you say effort, putting in more effort, that's the biggest adjustment. And I think Miami were outplayed. Jimmy Butler said it himself. They can't come out with that type of energy against Denver. You can't be minus 25 on the glass against Denver and expect to win, right? I mean, when you rebound, you get the possession. You either get another chance to score or you get a chance to run. But it's also connected to defending. Look, the interesting thing for me is look at the three-point shooting. Miami has outshot Denver in every game. At least they've made more three-pointers. But the only game they won is where they hit close to 50% from three. Everything else has been under 30%. But so that's not necessarily the issue. I think the problem is finding a way to stop Denver. I mean, Denver's shooting like 50% from the field. And secondly, I think the bigger issue for the Heat is how to score. I mean, the games in the 90s, they're not going to beat Denver like that.
That's always been their issue.
Yes.
The regular season, that was the issue. They kind of cured it a little bit, during the first round, second round, and obviously in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, Miami has always been the record all throughout the playoffs is they've been the better team. They're not the talented team against New York, against Boston, against Milwaukee, and the same with Denver. But the others didn't show up. What do you expect with the Calebs, with the Gabe Vincent, with the Duncan Robinsons, and all of the other guys, Coach Mark?
They just need to make shots. They did it in game 2, especially early in the game. Because if they make their shots early in the game, it allows Butler to be not as aggressive on the offensive end when they're hitting their shots, which keeps him fresh to make plays in the fourth quarter. If they don't make shots early, then Butler, the load on Butler offensively becomes bigger for the entire game. And Butler, I don't think he can sustain attacking this Denver defense for the entire game. That's why the other guys like Duncan Robinson, they need to make shots. In the fourth quarter of game 3, they were even running some offense with Kyle Lowry, which they didn't really do in the previous series because they were trying to search for different answers on the offensive end. And it wasn't just there in game 3.
Actually, I actually agree with Coach Mark there. You know, there was a stretch in game 2. They were running a little pin down for Duncan Robinson. He got baskets off it. He got somebody open. So it's like finding a creativity for Miami to give different looks because they keep trying to hunt for Murray and KCP with Jimmy Butler. And, you know, it is tiring also and it wears them down. It's more predictable, but when they're moving constantly, they're a bit tougher to guard.
You know, the Denver Nuggets, a lot of people are going to say that they need to basically play how they did in the last game if they want to get over the Miami Heat. Right now, Charles, we talked about the rebounding. We talked about trying to get the guys open here for the other shooters of the Miami Heat, apart from Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. But what do you think is going to be the biggest point for the Miami Heat to try and even the series against the Denver Nuggets?
Well, number one, they need to stop the Jokic-Murray pick and roll that Coach Mark was talking about. That's key. And then again, they have to find ways to score and get guys to step up. Look, Martin's had 8 points in one stretch, 8 in a row, but the rest of the game he was quiet. All these other guys need to hit shots and make plays because the Nuggets can focus on Bam and Jimmy, and it's not going to be enough. 2
seconds. Who wins tomorrow, Coach Mark?
Miami.
Who wins tomorrow, Coach
Denver.
Charles?
Para may iba.
Denver. All right, there you go.
That's not convincing.
We had to get it. We had to get it from them.
We did.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for being here.